So, thank you all for coming. I appreciate the time. I wish I was here to talk about something a little bit more pure, but you all saw my notes, and so you know why we're here, and you know we are looking at starting the governance process to suspend the major. And so what I want to talk about this afternoon is, number one, why. Number two, important considerations associated with that. Number three, potential future directions. And then I want to open it up for questions. Get your input. So with that, I'll just start out with the important considerations and then I'll re-emphasize them later. Number one, we will serve all the current media studies students so that you can graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Media Studies. Number two, we will be looking to facilitate the placement of the quality faculty staff that we have in media studies so that we can leverage those talents as we're working through this procedure. So with that, part of the why, and it does stem with some of the budget reductions that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. And some of you were in that meeting that we had just a few years ago in this regard. And that state budget cuts have gone, or with the state budget cuts, the funding of UW-Platteville has dropped below 20%. And if you include the federal financial aid dollars in there, it was about 16% in 2011, which is this. I put this graph up there because this is the one I showed you previously a couple of years ago. It's actually much lower than that now. So relatedly, if you take out the federal financial aid dollars, then it's about 20% of our funding is state funding, is supporting our programs. In other words, 2 out of every 10 students here is supported through state dollars. Everything else is through tuition and other revenues, tuition being by far the main one. So with these major reductions, we had to make some real difficult decisions a couple years ago in regards to transitioning media studies into the School of Business. And part of that was with where we had to make budget cuts throughout the College of BILSA. So we made that initial movement. When we look at the current situation, media studies enrollments continue to drop dramatically. We've dropped about 66% over the last decade. And with that, when you look at the current class structure, we do have a significant number of seniors and juniors, and then it tapers off from there. Now, part of that you would expect a little bit because we have internal transfers. However, the highest percentage of internal transfers typically occurs after the first year, so you'd expect a much higher number of sophomores. And so with this, if you look at this and you look at internal transfer numbers and you look at the continuing drop in enrollments, we'd predict another drop of 49% in the next 2 to 3 years. So given that in its current state, media studies is not viable in that sense. Further, when we look at the other programs within the College of BILSA and we balance out the array, we've had some pretty significant growth in many of the other areas. Now, is it plateauing? It certainly is. But if you look up here, School of Agriculture has grown about 75% over the last decade. Biology has grown, I think, about 37%. We've had a lot of growth, and the resources have not matched the growth over that time. So again, we have to be strategic on how we're allocating resources in the future. that, looking at that picture, that is why we're here today. And looking at the future, we have to look at the feasibility of supporting the program while also supporting the other programs in the College of BILSA. And that's why we're pursuing the suspension of the major. Now again, given that considerations, the current students will be able to complete the media studies major. We will serve all current students. And again, as I indicated, we'll look at ways that we can leverage the talent of the current media studies faculty. We also want to look at other directions, and this is just talk right now, so can't say how this is going to evolve because it's going to take some time and considerations. One area that we need to look into is being intentional about public relations as we move forward. There's a lot of opportunity there. If we think about inter-collaborations with LA&D in this regard, if we think about inter-collaborations of agriculture, there's just a lot of opportunity with public relations. But that's a further discussion in how this all fits in with the School of Business. In addition, there's a lot of opportunity in the sales and marketing areas, some of our fastest growing areas in the School of Business. And so looking at that as an opportunity moving forward. So that in of itself is what we're looking at and where we are today. So at this time I want to open it up for questions.